It's Jack, and today I'd like to thank Games Workshop for sending us two brand new Battletomes, the Hedonites of Slaanesh and the Daughters of Khaine. This is gonna be a review. I'm not gonna go page for page, but I'm gonna go over some really cool combos I've noticed and some changes I saw between the old Battletomes and the new one. And it's very interesting because this Battletome I believe came out 2 years ago, and we're already getting an update, and there's so much more variety now because you're adding a lot more mortals into the army, and it's so cool. And we all know, well, you might not know, but Slaanesh was my first favorite army when I got into Age of Sigmar. I had issues with them when they first came out. I felt they were really it was hard to play them casually, and I do like they got nerfed for a little bit, and I do like the changes that this book has made. And you will be seeing a lot more Slaanesh on rerolling ones because I have an army, but it was like, if you notice, we're pretty casual at rerolling ones, and it was hard to take your foot off the gas with Slaanesh. Daughters of Khaine, these are not our models. I borrowed these from a good friend of mine, Julian. Thank you for letting me borrow these, just because I'm going to try to get a battle report between these two armies as soon as possible. Daughters of Khaine, they were a very good army. They got nerfed a little bit. Still very good army. Morathi book came out. They jumped back up to be really, really competitive again. And this book took away the Morathi book stuff, but they're still really good. They're still, you can still kill a lot of people with half-naked female elves. So that's going to happen. So I'm going to start going over things I've noticed in the books and just point some cool things out to you. And hopefully you enjoy it. First, I'm going to go off some of the changes in the Slaanesh side. One of the big things that changed was the Locus of Diversion. Locus of Diversion was one of the reasons why it was kind of hard to play Slaanesh casually in the beginning. If you don't know what it did, so every Slaanesh hero on a 4-up, they got to make an enemy unit attack last on within 6 inches. And if you were a Greater Demon, you got to add +2 to that roll. So the initial nerf was to add +1 to that roll. So non-Greater Demons had a 5-up, and Greater Demons had a 3-up, which, helped a lot. Now that's been changed. Now Hedonite Demon heroes within 1 inch of an enemy unit can create a Locus of Diversion. If they do so, pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of that hero and roll a dice. Adding 1 if the hero is a Greater Demon. On a 4-up, the unit cannot pile in before it makes its attacks. So you still get to attack normally. You don't get to attack last, but you can't pile in, which is really big now. It hurts units that are horde units. And they changed that with the Alapexes, the sharks for Ideneth, and those nets can be a headache. I was running a big fat unit of 30 Liberators, and having somebody tell you can't pile in is not fun. So, but again, demon heroes. So there are a lot more mortal heroes in this book now. They do not get the Locus of Diversion. A change is the way Depravity worked. Initially, you'd be summoning 3-4 Greater Demons, Keepers of Secret, each game, because you got Depravity each time they did a mortal wound or a wound, or each time they took a mortal wound or a wound. In the spells didn't hurt them, but that's not a big deal. But now Depravity has changed. And just to show you how much it's changed, it used to be able to summon I think in the beginning, the Keeper Secrets were like 40 points or something like that, but you could get them easily. Summoning the Keeper now costs you 12, so it's a lot harder to get Depravity, and I'll read that off to you. Feast of Depravity. You can summon Slaanesh demon units to the battlefield if you collect enough Depravity points. DPs. At the end of the Battle Shock phase, you receive 1 Depravity for each unit on the battlefield that had a wound or mortal wound that was not negated, allocated to it that turn, or has fewer models than it had at the start of the turn. Each unit, this is one of the combos I was looking at. So there's, jumping ahead, there's archers. Slaanesh is shooting now. I love shooting. So if you take multiple units of archers, just, and what do I always say? Split your attacks, because this is the best thing to do in Age of Sigmar. Split your shooting attacks. Do some wounds over here, some wounds over here, some wounds over here. You get Depravity. I was thinking about it. You probably get average about 5-6 Depravity a turn. So hopefully you can summon a Keeper a turn. If you have any Depravity at the end of your movement phase, you can summon 1 unit from the list below. So you can summon 1 unit to the battlefield and add it to your army. Each unit you summon costs a number of Depravity points, as shown as the list below, and you can only summon a unit if you have enough Depravity points to do so. Summoning units must be set up wholly within 12 of a friendly Slaanesh hero and more than 9 inches from enemy units. So yeah, for instance, The most expensive thing to summon is the Keeper Secrets. The cheapest thing are 30 Demonettes as well. You can summon 30 now. I think you could only summon 20 before. But the cheapest stuff to summon is a Vice Lord. Oh, excuse me, Vice Leader. Vice Lord is a game. 1 Seeker Chariot, 5 Seekers, or 10 Demonettes. Those are all worth 6. And so maybe you might be able to summon turn 1. Another big change is this bad boy, the Khaine. Very similar to what it was before. You can sacrifice an item. So the Khaine has changed. What you couldn't do before that you can do now, which is the biggest change I think, is you can now summon from it. Similar to the Nurgle trees, the Feculent Narwhals, or the Skull Altar from Khorne, which has really saved me in games. And it's actually, I've killed Slaanesh players, because before you just like, all right, you know, the classic, just shoot the heroes, as Coach would say. So you shoot the heroes off, they can't summon. Now, Slaanesh will always be able to summon, unless, you know, you're surrounding the Khaine. And so they will always be able to summon from the Khaine. So you can summon from there as well as from heroes. So Slaanesh is much less hero hammer than it used to be, because it used to be the only way you got depravity was the heroes doing wounds or taking wounds, and you had to summon them. So now you have a lot more tools in the toolbox, because those brand new units, which are gorgeous, you get to play with them. But you still have some really cool heroes. There's, I'm a fan of special characters. Like I should have had Shalaxi out here. But I know some people aren't, but you have more special characters in this book, which I love. So originally you had the Mask, Shalaxi, that might have been it. I might cut this part out. But now you have Sigvald, some other guy, the fat dude, Glucose. Another thing you want to take note of is the Allegiance ability, Euphoric Killers. So every time you roll a 6 to hit, it counts as 2 hits. And I believe if you have 20 or more models, it counts as 3 hits. That only works on Hedonites. So if you have Slave to Darkness models with the Slaanesh keyword in your army, they do not get that Allegiance ability. I want to point out a couple notable spells that I noticed. Paths of the Dark Prince, which can make a unit fly. And a couple of the healing spells are Born of Damnation and Progeny of Damnation. And another spell you might want to look out for is Battle Rapture, which makes you immune to battle shock. And if you cast it on a 10 or higher, you get to pick 3 units to be immune to battle shock. But I can hear you saying, but Jack, I have demons. Why do I need to worry about battle shock? Because this book is chock full of mortals who have low bravery. Now I'm going to go over some of the sub-factions. Just like the old book, you still have the same 3. Invaders, Pretenders, and Godseekers. And if you have the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen book, all the stuff in there still works. And so does the sub-faction from the White Dwarf. But I'm just going to go over the ones in this book. So Invaders. This is the one where you can have 3 generals. But just like before, they don't like each other. And so if you're too close, you're not going to be able to use any command abilities or command traits. With Invaders, you get extra CP if all 3 of your generals are in the enemy territory. Most of the command traits for Invaders are very useful. But when I was looking at their items, I only kind of found one that I really liked. It's called the Rod of Misrule, and it gives you extra command points. Now let's go to Pretenders. Pretenders let your general have 2 command traits, because he's pretending to be Slaanesh. And of course, my favorite command trait is Strongest Alone! You can take the item Silver Slash, which I think Sigvald might be upset about that. I was going through the Artifact of Powers for Pretenders, and I came across Breathtaker, which I think they might need to FAQ this, because it lets you reroll the Locus of Depravity, but it says it's within 6 instead of within 1. The first initial roll for your Locus of Depravity still has to be within 1 in my head. So does that mean the second one gets to extended 5 more inches to 6? Because the initial one still has to be in 1 because it's normal. It just lets you reroll a 6-inch one. So I don't know. I'm confused on that one. But rerolling your Locus of, letting somebody pile in 1 inch. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's something. Godseekers, which I think might be the most competitive one. That or Invaders, those 2, I don't think. It's going to be fun. Pretenders is still fun. But I think Godseekers, this is the one where I think the whole army, by the way, is +1 to charge. I don't think I mentioned that. Slaanesh is just +1 to charge. Godseekers is the more you charge, the more depravity you get, similar to last time. And one of the items, Cameo the Dark Prince, I think it used to be in Pretenders, because I think I used to take that. It was the one where you can use it, get a command point, and then you just burn it on the Khaine. It was a little bit combo. And one thing I like about Godseekers is they have different command traits for different generals. Like There's one retreat and charge. Like, I think Speed Chaser would be good for a general that's on a chariot, whereas Into the Fray would be a really good one for Keeper or Seeker. The artifacts for Godseekers are, nothing really stood out for me. My favorite spell for Slaanesh is Hysterical Frenzy. Holy Within 18, the enemy unit has to be visible to you, and for every 6, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds. Now, a question I have, though, is say one model from the unit is visible to you, then the rest aren't. Can you cast it on, and they're Holy Within 18, can you cast it on the whole unit still? I mean, it's good. You probably can. A lot of the battalions stay the same from the old book, but there are 3 new ones that incorporate a lot of the new mortals. And my favorite one is Depraved Carnival because it lets you shoot in the hero phase, and I love shooting. Some of the cool things I noticed in the book were the new Slangor Blood Fiends. They have the Beast of Chaos keyword and the Mortal keyword, so you can put them in a Beast of Chaos army, which that's kind of cool. I'm hoping that all the Chaos Gods will get their own unique. Like Zangor for Zinj, Korngor for Korn. I also think it's really cool callback to bring. That's the old Sigvald model, and the new one I think he's really cool. And he ignores ward saves or after saves or feel no pains. Whatever the save after he ignores that, so he's like a Gottrick killer. I thought that was a new mechanic until I realized that there's a Bone Splitter subfaction that the whole army ignores ward saves. I think good allies in this book would be Rodigus and Bellicor. And Glucose or Scolion is a great unit if you're looking to run a Death Star. I really like the book, and I think this will put Slaanesh from about a C to maybe a B minus, keeping it in the fat middle where, and I think you'll have a good games with them. You'll lose, you'll win. I think they still, against the top armies right now, Zinch and KO, I think they will still struggle. Because they're not really low drops. I think the lowest you're probably going to get is maybe 4. I think for a Slaanesh player, you're going to like it. It's going to bring you back, but it's not going to bring you to the heights where you used to be. Now moving on to Daughters. Daughters of Khaine is actually one of the armies I know the least about. In my local area, we only had 1 player, and I beat him a couple times. Shout out to Jace. I actually beat him on the channel. With Slaanesh, how about that? When I was looking through the book, I was really noticing how beautiful the Sisters of Slaughter and the Witch Elf sculpts were. Even the Hag Queen and the Slaughter Queen. Wasn't a huge fan of the Avatar of Khaine. I feel it's kind of stiff and goofy when he has his arms out. But I actually really like the range. And as for older models from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I think they hold up great. So looking at the Daughters of Khaine, they have an army-wide 6-up shrug, which I know I'm late to the party, and I know that you can improve that. But I was like, wow, the whole army has a ward save. I love that. Before, when Daughters of Khaine were the big bad, similar to when Slaanesh were, it was all about Hagnar. And then when the Morathi book came out, it was all about Celebron. Another thing I was noticing about Daughters of Khaine is how bad the armor saves are, which actually reflects on the models. They're in bikinis. They should have bad armor save. Going over the command traits to see if you were going to run without one of the temples, and I didn't really notice anything that stood out. There are 3 different types of items you can give your general depending on what kind of keywords they have. One of the coolest items I saw was the Iron Circlet, which lets you reroll prayers of 1 for priests. All the spells are really great, especially Mind Razor. The only spell that I thought was kind of ho-hum was Shroud of Despair. A couple of the prayers that were really great were Catechism of Murder and Blessing of Khaine, which lets you reroll your ward save. Put Covenant of the Ironheart, Catechism of Murder, and Blessing of Khaine on a big fat unit of Witch Elves. Oh my gosh, that'd be tough to deal with. Daughters of Khaine kind of reminds me of Khorne in the fact that priests do so much work. Having Slaughter Priests and Khorne are just key. One of the things this book does do is bring Daughters of Khaine to the way the game is played currently, where everything's wholly within now, and you can't daisy chain to get buffed. Let's take a look at the temples. Hagnar is not as good as they once were, but they're still good. Drachy Ganeth is a combat blender of subfaction, in my opinion, especially if you're not a fan of the snakes. The Kraith is the sub-action I was most interested in because my friend Jace played him, and he had Morathi attack twice in a row, 2 times in 1 game. You can't do that anymore. Kraith is the Sisters of Slaughter sub-faction. Say that 3 times in a row. Celebron is the anti-shooting sub-faction. Your whole army is -1 to hit in the shooting phase, and I kind of don't want people to play this because I play a lot of shooting. They do have a teleport, but it's a very interesting teleport. I think it's the only one I've seen like this before. It happens in the movement phase, and once you teleport outside of 9 inches from an enemy unit, You can't move in your following movement phase. So you teleport and you're kind of stuck there for a little bit. Keltnar is a new sub-faction and it has the retreat and charge mechanic for the whole army. And you can summon one free unit of Khaine. Xanthar Kai is the mutant sub-faction. Snakes, harpies, Marathi's children. As far as Marathi goes, she kind of seems like a auto-include to me, especially for competitive games, but I could be wrong. Another big change in the book has been Witch Brew. Shadowstalkers are another new unit that can teleport around and have the potential to do mortal wounds. As far as generals go, I think your best bet is to take one of the units on a cauldron. They're sturdy, do damage, and can take a hit. One cool thing about the new Daughters of Khaine book is it has endless spells and an invocation of Khaine, which is like an endless prayer. So it has endless spells and a prayer when prayers can't be dispelled. And with the Iron Circlet, you can reroll ones to cast it or pray for it. As far as Daughters of Khaine go, beautiful army, great models, deadly on the battlefield. Thank you for joining me for this review, and we'll hope to have these armies clash for you soon. Khaine is the Sisters of Slaughter. The Khaine is the Sisters of Slaughter.